and IT companies, we were going to be a partner-centric led company. It was the best decision we've made as a company, and it's been a real win for all of us over the last 20 years. But you know where I'm headed with this? We must constantly change. Bruce reminded us of that when he talked about partner customer satisfaction. A 3.97 is a very good grade versus our peers, but it's not where we should be on a 5-point scale. It was 5 years ago when we asked you at this very conference, we said when we have a direct touch Cisco model, the customer satisfaction for our joint customers is 4.5, and candidly the satisfaction for our partners was a 3.8 in terms of that. We asked how we could work together to get that to be equivalent to a Cisco direct touch or a Cisco direct partner touch, and that's exactly where it is today. Now, when I'm in front of you today, one of the most exciting things that I see is how quickly this market's going to change, and how the network is becoming central to every major transition in the market, whether it's cloud, whether it's mobility, whether it's social, whether it's big data, whether it's security and collaboration. But to take advantage of these opportunities will require us to change at a tremendous pace. Today, if you agree with everything I said, I will fail. I want to make you a little bit uncomfortable. Now, how many of us in this room like change? You know where I'm headed? How many of you have changed your spouse in the last year or even talked about it? Yeah. And the point that I'm making is just thinking about the person you trust most in life makes you uncomfortable. This next year, Cisco as a company probably has to change more in 1 year than we've done in 3 years. And what do our partners have to do? Exactly the same thing. And change will make you uncomfortable, even with the people you trust most, even with your partner that you've been with, for many of you, 10, 15, 20 years. It is an opportunity that's almost unlimited. The power of the Internet of Everything, which is what a lot of you asked me to talk about, that and cloud, literally will be 5 to 10 times the impact of the Internet to date, since the tree established in the early 1980s. The ability to lead in this is going to go our way together. But it will require an ecosystem, and it will require us taking some good business risks. For my comments today, and each of the comments that any of the Cisco team makes over the next several days, we will be making forward-looking statements, and they are subject to safe harbor. That's the result of 3 years of law school. My dad would be proud of how much money we helped out that. I always try to start with you. If you're really partner-centric, you should be partner-centric in everything you do. So when I ask you what's on your mind, I'm really wanting to build on this, and what Bruce and Edison said to me. First is show where Cisco is going, vision and strategy. What do you see in the short term, intermediate, and longer term? What is the front and center on probably everybody's mind in this room? It's about growth, isn't it? And then it's about profitability. How do we do this together? And the market transitions that are now occurring are coming at us probably, we'll use the term pace of change square, faster than we've ever seen, both technology and business. And how do we jointly go into services that will change dramatically? And how do we do it with a leverage point of 5 to 1? For each dollar, each person we have, I expect our partners to have $5 or 5 people focused on an issue. Partner-centric model. I got asked by several of you last night after a couple drinks, John, are you all going to move away from your partner-centric model? The answer is absolutely no. It's about an ecosystem where the power is what we can do together. The ability to say, how do we go to market in a way that none of the other IT leaders in the world do. But it will require us to catch these transitions together, and we will win together. At the heart of who we are on our cultural badge is about winning together. This is what makes Cisco, I think, a very special place to be a partner with. But the opportunity to become the #1 IT partner is clearly there in front of us. The Internet of Everything will be the vehicle which makes us relevant together in every industry at the CEO or the government level, leader level. The pace and change squared, hold that thought for a minute, but that means we have to evolve equally as fast. At the heart of what I want to communicate, it is a partner ecosystem that we're not only deeply committed to, it's the way we're going to win together. But as we announce changes, it's going to make you a little bit uncomfortable, isn't it? But if we didn't announce changes, that's when you really should be uncomfortable. And my team loves to make changes. How many Cisco people in the room? You know where I'm headed. You guys say, move faster, and then we do. And you say, well, wait a minute, I'm not so sure that affects me now. You have to get used to that pace of change. And how do we win together? How do we make this part of a world that is changing with tremendous pace, where technology all of a sudden isn't kind of the enabler of companies or government strategy? They're becoming technology companies, specializing in retail or specializing in government services. I used to show a kayaker going off a Class 5 waterfall when I used this slide. In other words, my goal was to remind everybody in this room and every customer that I dealt with that the majority of companies who were on the Fortune 500 list just 25 years ago are gone. In fact, only 24% of them are still on that list. And you're going to see this accelerate. At least a third of the companies that are in this room would not exist in a meaningful way in 10 to 20 years. That's true of every customer, every partner that we jointly deal with. And almost 90% of our joint customers will have a major revenue shortfall in the next decade, and only about 10 or 11% of them will recover. So I use this as a setup. You can either look at this as a challenge, or you can look at it if you don't change and grasp the changes in technology that are going on to enable your country, to enable your business, you will get left behind. And this is where you suddenly hear the CEO of Walmart, who I was with this last week, say, John, we're a technology company first, specializing in retail. With the CEO of Allstate saying, John, we basically are a technology company first that just has to specialize in insurance. And all of these are network-centric transitions. Throughout the next 2.5 days, you will see us again and again deal with this slide. Because we want to share with you where we're going and what we're trying to accomplish together. How do we take these changes in business and technology and make them into business models? How do we really drive demand from our customers? Not by selling them routers and switches, but by selling them outcomes. How do we focus jointly on your profitability? How many other companies start with that in a partner conference? How many of you attended the HP Partner Conference yesterday? How was it? How many of you liked it? The point that I'm saying is deep embedded in our peers and their great companies is not an attitude toward partnering like you see at Cisco. We start with your profitability. We start with how we deliver on our commitments to you. We start with the partner enablement. Then we talk about all these technology transitions going on, not in terms of selling routers, switches, and wireless, but in selling the business outcomes. And taking these architecturally together, which means you and Cisco together can get solutions much quicker for our customers at dramatically lower cost. It comes close to a future-proofing environment as imaginable as we move the Internet of Everything. A $19 trillion market for the Internet of Everything. 80% plus of our business goes through you. Talk about commitment. We have 70,000 people, and you have 283,000 people focused on how Cisco works together. 34% of even our distribution orders go through the people in this room. And the customer satisfaction, while the best in the industry, many companies would just go, yes? That's a number that we're not proud of. Being the best isn't what it's about. It's about achieving your expectations, just like we achieve the expectations of our joint customers. And how do we move that into the 4.5 range over several years? Many of you ask, John, if there's one thing that Cisco's done that has allowed you all as a company, your leadership team to lead, what is it? It's this slide. We have always been customer-driven. The word you're going to see us think more and more is just not customer-driven, but everything we do think customer in terms of what their priorities are, how easy are we to do business, how we help them with their objectives such as lowering operating costs and growing their top line. Catching market transitions, because that's when you gain share, but become much more relevant. And then what you've seen us do for a decade, but really become very important, putting the meat behind this, is what Padma Warrior and Pankaj Patel done in engineering and strategy, with really saying, here are the architectures which allow our customers to implement this. And each time we cut one of these market transitions, look at the revenue on the bottom line that we currently have in the run rate. It's all around catching the transitions as the world moves to IPs. And you can see the trend on here. As you begin to think about application-centric infrastructure, which is embracing the concepts of software as a service, embracing SDN and put a part of our strategy as opposed to a separate segment to the other side. And the ability really to address these type of issues as the Internet of Everything occurs, look at the dollar volume potential. Imagine what's possible together. The other question I bring you to get is, what do you see in your growth in the short term, Cisco? In the short term, cloud is on fire. We all know that. We won the first stage of cloud, the inner cloud, the inter-cloud in terms of the capability for infrastructure. And we recently got ranked by Synergy as the #1 hybrid cloud player as well. Now think back 5 years ago when we said we're going to enter this market. We asked Partner-centric Warrior to lead us there. People thought we wouldn't even have the staying power. But yet we're the fastest growing player in this infrastructure. We're going to talk today about moving to stage 2 of this, which Rob Lloyd is leading for us. Mobility is on fire. We'll continue to be on fire with all the appropriate comments. This is a market that should grow 10 to 20% a year for us. The cloud marketplace, in terms of UCS, what do you expect us with all the appropriate caveats and disclaimer earlier, 30 to 45% a year. The ability to take security, which is the top issue at the CEO and CIO level and every one of your accounts, and grow that in terms of orders well above 25 or 30%. And because it's recurring revenues, probably revenue more in the 15% range. You'll see us double down in emerging markets. When we said the emerging markets were slowing down, 8 months ago, people said that was unique to Cisco, didn't they? Only Cisco is having that problem. Well, you've all watched. If you would have shorted the emerging markets at that time, you made a ton of money. Just like in 2007, when we said the economic slowdown was coming, everybody said it's unique to Cisco. Or in 2012, we said our U.S. enterprise commercial business suddenly turned up. If you had bought the Dow Jones average in August of 2012, you would have seen what happened in the market. But what we did in 2008 with our automotive companies, when nobody else would grant them credit or partner with them when things got tough, we did. And we emerged from that market as #1 in every automotive company around the world. You know what I'm saying? Exact same needs to replay in emerging markets. Not to say we don't need to improve in certain areas, but a commitment to where 50% of the growth will be in the future. Services together at a 5-to-1 ratio, but not growing at 3 to 5% like the market currently has a schedule for, but in high single digits and sometimes in double digits depending on the segment of the market. Last year I said security is going to be the #1 priority for this next year, and many people in this room probably thought, can we become the #1 security company? Did you think it's possible? You did, but other people didn't. And yet we're now in a position to become that #1 security company. We actually right. Collaboration will be an instant replay for this next year. What Rowan and team are doing here, I think, is completely out of the box in terms of ideas. So we'll be asking about collaboration. You will see us literally come to the market with any screen to any application. Internet of Everything, $19 trillion. Outcome and results-based selling. Because if you show a CEO how to grow their top line by 2% and their bottom line by 1%, they'll basically go end-to-end, partner and Cisco with ourselves together. And as software and hardware with silicon come together, we will build on our routing and switching foundation for the next 3 to 5 years. Does that make sense in terms of growth? Kind of what you expected? Innovation. We have an innovation engine that is on fire internally, doing a great job. But we also innovate with partners, and we innovate through acquisitions, having done 169 acquisitions in the last 20 years. Within that, the 2 largest we've done over the last 15 months or so have been Meraki, which is cloud-based capability. And I want to thank you for the way that we won together here, growing over 100% year over year. Pipeline up 6 times. 58% of our bookings go through you, our partners. And the number, when you really turn on this partner machine go to market, and it took us a couple of quarters to get it going, we went from under 5,000 customers to 9,600 customers in 1 quarter. You're seeing a similar type approach with SourceFire, because the minute we bought SourceFire, we said we're really serious about security. We're going to go across the market, 30% order growth on what their numbers were the year before. And it also really added meat to our content and network security, where we saw our own growth accelerate. Again, a pipeline up 3x. So it's the ability to innovate at a pace that others do not. This is a slide we've talked about a number of times before. I want you to just take a moment to absorb it. No company in history has done this in any segment of the market across this many product families. In fact, most of them are lucky if they do 1 or 2. And yet, when you look at Cisco, we said our goal was to be #1 or #2, or not to compete, a minimum 40% market share. Simple when you enter markets, very difficult to do. and look at the areas where we're not 40% yet. Security, and you just heard the growth rates we're doing there. The blade servers, which is the only growth area of the market in terms of servers, growing at 35% this last quarter, year over year. In cloud, the good news is we're the #1 player. The challenge is we've got a lot of opportunities in front of us to become 40%. But it's when you begin to look at this graph that shows where our peers are, that you realize when we talk about architectures, no one else can do this. Cisco's in the blue. The white, which is the only one that shows up very often, is others that aren't even mentioned in the top 4 or 5. So if you tie together these multiple products and technologies with solutions, with services, this is what brings architectures to life. And when you think about architectures, think about the ability in each one of these areas to say your platform, your application area, your infrastructure, your services. And every time we make an acquisition like we did in mobility, where we did 5 acquisitions over the last 2 years, you see exactly where it fits. If you do this right, and together we will, you're talking about 10 different architectures here, ranging from cloud all the way through the Internet of Everything, that will be designed not only to work more efficiently within an architecture, but then when you work across all 10 at the same time, you're going to have dramatically lower operating expenses for yourself, but most important for our joint customers. You're going to be able to bring outcomes and services to light in a much quicker fashion. You're going to be able to change how we really become the #1 IT player in the eyes of our customers together with tremendous speed and as close to the future period as possible. I'll call out one of your peers, Worldwide Technology. About $2.8 billion with Cisco last year. 30% growth rate. What do they sell? They sell solutions. They're pretty much an all Cisco shop. They basically take these solutions, build them into architectures in their labs, bring their customers in and talk about, here's how you do this in a way to get you the outcomes. This is where we have to move as a company across all industries. And the ability to really articulate this and bring it to life is what we're committed to do with you. Simple definition of architectures. Horizontal across multiple technologies, services and solutions. Except this is a game no one else can play. Because everybody else stayed in silos and only a couple silos. So when you're talking with customers, that's hard to argue against. Now, when I get excited about 4 generations of the internet and talk about back in the mid-90s, how exciting it was with e-commerce, you raised your hands. How many were with Cisco in 1995, directly or indirectly? So you saw what e-commerce did for us, but the majority of the people in this room did not. We were a router company selling speeds and feeds that just bought some switching companies. We rode the e-commerce horse in terms of business relevance and business outcome in a way that no one else did. And we rode away from every single competitor, and you can't even remember their names because they're largely gone. And big, great companies who were in this space like IBM actually exited. You're going to see this occur even faster with the Internet of Everything. We've been focused on this for 7 years, how this would evolve in smart connected communities. And you know where we're headed. There's some parallels that we can learn from. Most important is you got to get the inflection point right. That's occurring this year. You've got to then have your references. For any of you that went through, you know what we're doing with lighthouse accounts, i.e. the cities of Barcelona, the companies like Rockwell Manufacturing, etc., the Walmarts of the world, that will show an example of what can be done in each industry. Then you talk about crossing the chasm, Jeffrey Moore's comments. Once you get 3 to 5 key lighthouse accounts, then you jump on the main street. And it's about thought leadership, examples, and what do the customers want? Outcomes. And the ability to do this in a year, because you go with architectures as opposed to having to be a systems integrator with tremendous overhead expenses trying to come together, it will be the future. The ability to put this in perspective in terms of $19 trillion. That is a profits and cost savings. The amount of revenue and opportunity for each of us is dramatically higher than that. This is profits to our joint customers. In the public sector, $4.6 trillion. I have yet to talk to a government leader around the world where you took what the government leader's objectives were, and let's use Korea or Mexico as an example. The government leader's objectives in Korea was a stronger, more creative economy, more small to medium business, etc. And when you outlined to President Park where we were going, and now she's an engineer by background, but she got exactly what this could mean to Korea's future. President Peña in Mexico, same discussion for modern and progressive Mexico. Same thing with Israel, which we'll talk about shortly, but UK, Canada, etc. Goes all the way down to individual cities. And what we do here is very simple. We basically bring together, not just connecting all these devices that are out there, but connecting them in a way that allows the right information at the right time to get to the right device or for the right person or the right machine to make the right decision. Easy to say, hard to do. And the power of the network we've all learned is what? The number of these connections squared. 2 phones, power network's 4. 10 phones, it's 100. 100 phones, 10,000. 500 billion connections. Think about what this means. But that means you've got to have an architecture to take advantage of this in each category. And you've got to get the right relevant information at the right time to the right machine or person. That's the opportunity in front of us. 19 trillion in profits. You saw this last year. But last year, after I gave a reasonably good presentation, and I thank you all for the scores on it, when I talked about the Internet of Everything, if we were gambling, you kind of ignored me. And if I was at the bar with you and I bought you a couple of drinks, you'd listen to me for about 3 or 4 minutes. This one has hit its inflection point. The Internet of Things, which we led the first global conference on in October, had 800 people there, key customers, and partners. You could get 20,000 today. At the Consumer Electronics Show, it was the topic, the Internet of Things. Was Cisco synonymous with this? And every one of our peers and competitors in the world are now following our lead. But it's the ability to bring this to life in terms of what it means in each category. The ability to do smart retail. When you think of what occurs, 1.5 trillion in retail. And the ability to talk to any retail company in the world, regardless of industry. How does this change what's going to occur in your shopping experience? How, when you go into this, now remember, in a physical store, the amount of data you collect is 10 times what a virtual store does. And how do you use that data in a very constructive means? How do you align for the future on this to where when you go through a retail store, you increase the purchases of that smart grocery cart by 10 to 15% per visit with dramatically higher customer satisfaction. And you improve the productivity of the people in the store by 1 to 3%. What CEO in the right mind wouldn't say, if you can do that with us, I'll standardize Cisco and you and your partner? The answer is everyone will. But look at this slide. I hope we've got it set up right. This is ugly. This is a subset of the number of architectures that exist in the store implementation. From mobile architecture, to social architecture, to the Internet of Things architecture, to video capability, to smart signage, to how you interface with social so you know what I'm doing here. If you have to do this yourself, across the dozens of different vendors with different software releases and integration, it's going to take you forever to do it, and your ability to have a stable, trouble-free, reliable environment is very low. This is what we can do together is bring this to life. And the ability to take computing with application-centric infrastructure and put processing power in every node of the network. Sometimes merchant with our UCS x86, lots of times our own ASICs, which was designed for software and hardware to work together in a very unique fashion. Manufacturing's on fire. Rockwell, great example, Honeywell, Emerson Electronics. The ability, when you talk about shop floors, to connect every one of those 50,000 IP devices on the floor, that you can completely schedule differently, you can bring in remote experts, you can literally, on downtime, which the average organization might be 5 to 10% a year on, cost them 1/3 of their profits for the year when this occurs. You can almost eliminate it entirely by this type of connectivity. So it's the ability together to sell outcomes, not routers and switches. The first digital city in the world will be Israel. Digital country. And in talking to Shimon Peres, their president, over the last 15 years, but mainly starting about 2 years ago, and with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and with the third political party there, who's the lead in the finance ministry, the ability to sell outcomes and say, here's what we can do together. What is the number one priority they wanted? A prosperous economy. They wanted job creation. They want a job creation among the diversity of its population. 20% of the population in Israel is Arab. And yet the Arab population does not participate in high-tech or high-paying jobs. The Orthodox Jewish community, how do you include them? How do you basically change healthcare as a country? How do you change education in a way that gives them a competitive advantage? How do you move your cities to the south and the defenses to the south? How do you do security? How do you reignite the greatest startup engine in the world per capita in their IPO market? And the answer was Cisco. And we did it with a number of partners. And it is Cisco in almost every single category. How many times do you think we talked about our router and switch in that conversation? None. But you have to work the CIO, you have to work with the key decision makers to show what you're doing in cloud, to show what you're doing in security architecture, etc. This is what we have to learn to do together. And this is where customers will pay a major premium for the results. It is the ability to capture this imagination and realize this is going to occur in every city, every country, and every geography around the world. I want you to listen for a moment to the video from Barcelona. Barcelona just won the most innovative city in all of Europe. It is the best example of a city that literally is the best run in the world, in most people's opinion. They are about the smart city of the future. Completely aligned with Cisco end-to-end in each category. But the ability to focus on how it changes their lives of their citizens and to move with tremendous speed. And then remember, think of this as a $25 million a year annuity, jointly with our partners every year, unless we don't deliver. Think of this times the thousands of cities worldwide that we can do together. Roll the video, please.